welcome to the video chat. You're allowed to ask questions. I'm Meinel, and this is some of my books. We're here to talk about anything you want to about them, books-wise, that is. We don't have a lot of people here, but the East Coast is full of water, so I'm sure there'll be a few viewers that can't attend because of that. But right now, we're promoting Children of Another Mother because SHADOE Publishing just published it. And it's about a single mom being with the death of her mother. And basically, she does a lot of landscaping and meeting new people and making a new family expected. I ended up being a single mom, so I could definitely relate, and I lost my mother. Another book that SHADOE Publishing is coming out with shortly is The Claim, and that's, whoops, other side. That's this one, and that too is about a woman. She ends up taking a claim back in the 1800s out on the prairies and making a success of it. A lot of people don't realize is that there were a lot of women alone while their husbands went off to make money because it was impossible to make money on these farms where the government gave away a lot of free land. And so the women, and a lot of times their children too, were left alone in these prairie shanties to make a living. Well, this woman chose to go out there alone and make a go of the land. It's very hard, it's very difficult, but it's believable because it happened a lot more than people realized. So it's kind of like a journal in that aspect. Some of the other books you can see behind me is Ships. That was the first novel that I ever wrote. It took me 2 weeks to write it, but I didn't do anything else pretty much. But it came to me so strongly that I had to write it. I'm pretty proud of it, but I write a lot differently than I did nearly 10 years ago. Long Distance Romance was the second novel that I wrote. That took me 2 years. It dealt with, just some issues that I kind of felt that most women would relate to, because it is a lesbian novel. The third book I wrote was Germanic. I kind of wrote Germanic and Long Distance Romance at the same time. Germanic is coming out with a new cover, and that too will be published by SHADOE Publishing, SHADOEPublishing.com, if you want to take a look at that and follow them. They also have a, not only their website, but their site where you can just follow along, and that's through WordPress. So if you put that into the search engine, I'm sure you can follow it. I also have, through my website, meinel.com, I have my WordPress blog and everything that you can follow along as well, especially when I come out with new titles. The most recent one I came out with myself that was a shorter story was Sapphic Cowgirl, and that's going to probably turn out to be probably my second most popular book I ever wrote. My most popular book was Sapphic Surfer, and that's above my head here. And I wasn't sure why that one was so popular. I thought perhaps because it dealt with first-time love, especially between women, and one of them being straight. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of women who can relate to that, where they didn't think they were a lesbian, they didn't know they were a lesbian, and then suddenly they found themselves attracted to a woman. And depending on what you grew up with, those morals and those thoughts and whatnot can, combat pretty heavily. If you have any questions or anything, you can text a chat. It's anonymous, from what I can tell. I'm still learning vocals, so I'm really grateful that we found the site to be able to give interviews like this. So if you do have anything, feel free to text chat, or you can even video chat with me. I'll take questions. I have 50 novels in various lengths. The novels themselves, there's about 8 to 10. I don't know, I haven't counted them recently. Then I have novellas, and those are kind of halfway between a short story and a full-length novel. And the intention suggested from my publicist was to do a novel of novellas. So we may do that in the near future. We've got a couple in the works right now that we actually advertised for models. They don't have to be lesbians, but they do have to be female. So sorry guys, if you're watching and want to be on the cover of my novel, isn't going to work, you know, because I do mostly write lesbian romance. But people do judge a book by its cover. I think that was one of the reasons why Sapphic Surfer sold so well, because the cover is just awesome. If you haven't seen it before, it is available on my website. It's also available through Amazon or Smashwords, depending on how you have your computer set up, or your Kindle, or your Nook, and you're able to download it there. But it's just got a phenomenal cover. It does something for me. I hope it does something for you too. But a similar thing happened when I made Sapphic Cowgirl, because I never knew a little girl who didn't like horses. And just the love of a horse, the romance of it, you know, that does something for a lot of little girls. And I think that invokes something in all of us, whether you're a lesbian or a man or a woman. It's just all the old West movies, and I always like Louis L'Amour or Terry Johnstone, who's still writing, and their writings were excellent in invoking Sapphic Cowboy with B-O-I, and because not all lesbians are hot, let's face it, some of them are, well, they're hot in different ways, let's put it that way. But they don't look, you know, like supermodels. I mean, a lot of people would like that, but maybe not, you know what I mean? Everybody's attractions are different. So Sapphic Cowboy will kind of touch on that, and it will of course have horses. And it came to me when I was watching Water for Elephants, the movie, and I thought, what a clever idea for a movie. But I love horses. I always have. I used to be an avid rider until I broke my leg and then sprained my back. But it kind of inspires you to write things, you know, that you love, obviously. I didn't know anything about surfing, but my sons did when they were growing up, and I did a lot of research. I actually got some feedback from real surfers who were amazed that I knew of these places to surf. But I was in Huntington Beach, California for many years, and that's, you know, supposedly surf capital of USA, you know. So, you know, you see that sort of thing, and I'm using life experiences all down the line in a lot of my books. Not some of the short stories that are, you know, they're short for a reason. They're just there to get you in the mood. The novellas and the novels and stuff like that, they, on the other hand, are, you know, more life experiences, or more, there's more to this story. It isn't just sex, which will disappoint some people. But that's not what I write. I write romance. Yes, the sex is a bonus. Yes, it's a plus. And yes, it's realistic. But it's not the whole story. And I don't write like that. So, nobody's texting any chat. Come on, guys. I can only mumble so long, you know. My kids will say differently, that I talk a lot. But if you'd like to ask something, feel free. My personal favorite is Ghostly Love. Not a lot of people get that, but I believe some people are born with a sixth sense, and they feel ghosts more than others. I have all my life. When my mother died, it took her about 2 years before she visited me, but she also visited my brother and my sister, and I felt cheated because I lived with her the longest. But Ghostly Love, I just thought the premise of it was awesome, and I've been asked to make a second book of it because it was a short story, and that came out right before Sapphic Surfer. But there's something special about that, and I made a video, which when I was making the video, I actually got freaked out. I was getting, like chills up my spine because of the pictures that I used in the video. But it turned out to be a great video. I had a great time making it, and since then I've learned how to make other videos. So I mean, I have one for long distance romance, I have one for Germanic, I have one for Sapphic Cowgirl, but it's fun. It's all a learning process as you write. Some of these stories, like Sapphic Cowgirl and Ghostly Love and Surfer, those I came up with and wrote in a relatively short time. But that's what I do. Is I don't have a lot of other jobs, so I write. That's what I do. Yeah, I love that, but I've been told I have to change the cover before we release it again. The artwork that I used, what I did is I did a Google search for the artwork, and since then a copyright come up, which I didn't find when I researched it. So that's what I will do. The question is, do you recall how your interest in writing originated? I am an avid reader. I have over 1,000 books in my personal library. I also have over 1,000 movies in my personal library. If you go to my website, you can see my video collection. My dream is to have a house with a library, just a den with wall-to-wall books, because I love books. Today I got a hardcover book, and I was just tickled because I love Joanne Lindsay and Beatrice Small. Danielle Steele a little bit. Obviously Lewis Moore is no longer writing. Terry Johnstone is still writing. But they weren't writing fast enough for me, and I knew that eventually I'd have to write what I wanted to read. And that's where Ships came in. Ships actually came to me so hard I couldn't sleep at night. And it was when I was realizing that I was gay. And it was a shock because for one, I'm from the Midwest. I had been married. I have 2 kids, and realizing I was gay and writing my first lesbian novel just kind of freaked me out. But it was a secret then, too. But it doesn't bother me the same anymore. Ships, you'll see on the cover, has a yin-yang, and I believe in the yin-yang. In fact, the new Ships coming out, when SHADOE Publishing finally can release it, has this yin-yang on it. It's a pendant that I wear. This is the new Ships. Oops. I have to tilt it because of the glare. Anyways, I am proud of that. It was my first book, and Ships really does, I don't think it has personal elements. I mean, I did put it in Malibu, California, which I've never lived there. I mean, I obviously visited there because I lived in Orange County, but then I put the other part of it in Wausau, Wisconsin, and I've lived there. Wausau is a very beautiful place. It's also as cold as Fairbanks, Alaska, and I always joke that it's part of the Arctic Circle. So it's just a matter of, when you do write, personal elements make it easier for you to write because you don't have to reveal every aspect of your personal life. You can leave a little bit of mystery there, and I deliberately do that. I may not end my book like someone else does. I leave them wanting more, but I don't leave them with questions of, well, then what happened? I try to complete the entire story. I think I did that like in Germanic. Germanic is very personal because I had cancer 11 years ago. I had lymphoma. And to work through that, that's one of the reasons why Germanic took 2 years to write, is I had to put it aside for months at a time because I couldn't discuss what I went through with the cancer. The cancer treatment that is in Germanic actually happened to me, only I was alone and I did not have any support system. I was only given 4 or 5 months to live, and 11 years, I look pretty good for a dead woman, so. But that does have a very realistic aspect of it, a real personal interest. And when I made the video for it, I included my mother in it. My mother had cancer 3 times, and I lived with my mother for many years. She helped me raise my sons. And I watched her go through it twice, but the 3rd one killed her. And losing her like that, cancer has a very, very big impact on my life, because I also lost my favorite aunt to it, and, cancer runs in our family, so I was lucky to get out of that. Yeah, cervical cancer I've never had to deal with. My sister did, though, but my sister and I aren't real close, so I don't know anything about it. But cancer in general, you hear the C word and people panic. Oh, you've got cancer. Well, nowadays, that isn't as bad I mean, in the 70s, when I was growing up, if you heard that you had cancer, that was a death sentence. Now it's like, oh, what kind do you have? Because then they know what they can do. And I had such advanced cancer 11 years ago that the doctor simply told me, you don't have the luxury of time. Normal chemotherapy takes 12 months for lymphoma, the kind I had. I didn't have 12 months. In 4 or 5 months, I would have choked to death. And the thing that made me decide go through with it was the fact that I had 2 young kids, and I didn't want to leave them parentless. And so I decided to go through an experimental treatment, and it worked. One of the, I don't know if all of you can read the text chats, but I'll repeat what's being said. Ships was a fantastic, one of my favorite novels. The first book in years that swept me away with the characters. Loved it. Well, thank you. I don't consider Ships my best novel. It was my first. It's good, but it could have been better. I read it now, and it's like visiting an old friend. And then I'll read it and go, oh, wow, I wrote this. But it's been so long since I wrote it. I mean, I think long-distance romance is actually better, and I think Germanic is way better. The claim has, I did different aspects in each book, too. Some of them I wrote in first person, some of them in third person. In Germanic, I wrote in first person, but each character had a section. And the book that's being produced by SHADOE Publishing, we did a really neat thing is we put banners in it so that you knew who first person was. Now, you can't do that like with an ebook as easily because it takes up too much space, like on a Kindle or a Nook or on your computer. But in the print book, we also chose a really, really sexy photograph that they were going to use for another author, but he had used a professional artist to create his cover. Yeah, the different books out there, I had deliberately not read any other lesbian novelist books until just a couple months ago. I read Trin Denise's short story, and I kept thinking, why didn't I write this? And she did a marvelous job. I loved it. But she got some bad PR on that because her book was too gay. How is a book too gay? That does not make any sense to me. It's either a lesbian-related novel, a gay-related novel, or a heterosexual novel with different characters of each. Like Children of Another Mother, it has one lesbian in the book, but it's not the main character. And in fact, the main character is straight throughout the book. Someone writes, Germanic was great, but I related to ships more. And that's great, because you related to something that, you know, it was my baby. It was my first one. And I knew after the first week of writing it that if I didn't finish it, I would probably never finish it. Procrastinators Anonymous, they're always calling on, on me, because I have at any given time 50 books on my laptop in various stages of completion. I have one, I've tentatively called it Gems with a Z, but it'll probably end up with a different name, and it reminds me when she was still at the high mark of her career. The last couple of years, I rarely find a book of hers that I love as much as the stuff she wrote in the 70s and 80s. She still writes well, but I feel like she's recycling the plot, recycling the characters' names, and she uses the same 12 characters' names, and I have a hard time naming people in my books, but, you know, it's also kind of an adventure, you know. I wrote one book that's about 3/4 the way done. It takes place in medieval times, and what inspired me to write that was I read a story back in the 70s of a woman who had been married to this man for years and years and years. She didn't find out until until the funeral home called and said, "Did you know that this was a woman?" She never knew her husband was actually a woman. And I remember at the time growing up thinking, how could you not know? Now granted, I read this story probably in the National Enquirer, but I remember thinking that, how could you not know that your spouse was the same sex as you? And I obviously didn't think about it all the time, but when I realized I was gay and I started writing these stories, that thought came back to me. So I started writing this story about medieval Europe. And then I read this novel called Pope Joan, and it's a supposedly true story that there was a pope that was female. And it shows up in like 2,000 different books. The Catholic Church, though, erased it from their scrolls, as though she never existed. But she had enough of the look, I guess, that nobody realized it was really a woman. And let's face it, if you're wearing monk's robes, nobody's going to see. That's one of the reasons why when a new pope is taken, they actually check that he has male apparatus. The chair that he has to sit in, he's felt up by like three men to make sure that he has male parts. And it's because of Pope Joan. So anyways, I was using that same time frame to write about a woman, you know, who looked enough like a man that she could go and conquer things that are obviously not typical man roles. And yeah, Wikipedia does have a great page on Pope Joan. Yeah, because it's an excellent book. A friend of mine recommended it after I told her about my story, because I called it Nowhere Castle. My family on my mother's side actually has a castle, and I hope to see it someday. So I kind of use that premise. I won't give it away now, but it is in Germany, and it does exist. I've got many, many relatives in Germany, and so I'm using that premise. I actually have 3 different novels in various stages of completion that have royals in it. I really loved the book by Danielle Steele called HRH, which stands for Her Royal Highness, and I liked the premise of it but I obviously won't, plagiarize it or steal the storyline. I mean, I would totally take it and do my own twist on it. But it's really cool, the idea of, okay, you didn't know you were a royal, and suddenly you are a royal, and having to deal with protocol and whatnot. Well, what if you happen to be a lesbian too? That would be a big no-no. I mean, Americans love the royal family in England. They're fascinated by it. It's a big tourist draw. What if one of them's gay? And I'm sure there has been. They probably hidden it by, marrying them off. And then they have their own lifestyle. Well, the book Gems, they don't deal with royals, but they deal with aristocracy. And so you've got these people who are counts and earls and whatnot. I don't know all the hierarchy of that, but they're also gay. So you marry as a yeah, I think they are too. I think they look gay. they just probably hide it well. But so I just wrote about it as though a gay man marries a woman who ends up being gay as well. I mean, they end up having children, so the turkey baster method does come into play, because that would be modern nowadays. You think Charles is gay? Even with Camilla? I don't think much of him just because he cheated on his wife. I don't respect cheating in any shape, manner. Well, yeah, Camilla does look like a man, doesn't she, with her hard, no offense, I mean, some people wouldn't believe I'm gay. I am. I have a beautiful girlfriend. But if I had my hair cut short, I'd probably look like a butch. Or, I mean, when I lost all of my hair and it grew back after cancer, it was not attractive. I'm not attractive with really short hair. So, but yeah, I could see where they're hiding something. So, it's water, I swear. I did not drink any more wine. I did before this started, but I knew that would be a mistake. But no, I think the fascination that Americans have with royals, these different storylines that I've come up with, might be really fun. In Danielle Steele's book, she brought in the Principality of Liechtenstein, and a lot of people don't even know where that is. I'm a student of geography, so I really do enjoy knowing where these places are, and I happen to know that Liechtenstein is right next to Switzerland, so it was interesting, and I kept thinking, God, I wish I had come up with that story. I would have done it better, but so one of the stories that I mentioned that I'm coming up with about royalties is on my mother's side, about 3 generations back, they have a castle, and they still have it. And then on my father's side, my grandfather's grandparents were kicked out of Russia by the Tsar. They had those immense farms, and in Russia you have a lot of princes, prince, so-and-so. I mean, there were so many nobles that escaped Russia after it fell from the Tsar and stuff. I mean, you couldn't throw a rock without running into nobility, like in France or wherever they escaped to. Well, anyways, my family was actually kicked out before that happened, but they had those immense farms. My great-great-grandparents had inherited that, but then it all got confiscated when they got kicked out, and then, they moved east to Germany or Austria, that type of area, because all the borders in Europe changed at various times. But it's fascinating to have that history in your own family. So, I kind of research it with the intent of turning it into a story. Because you never know when a story will come to you. I mean, a simple conversation with someone, and suddenly it just triggers the creative juices in your head, I mean, yes, I read a lot, I read a lot of different authors, and like I said, I didn't read lesbian stories for a while because I was afraid I might unconsciously steal some of their story, which I've been very good about, and I haven't. I wouldn't do that. I don't believe in plagiarism. But it is neat to have these stories. I used to worry that I'd run out of ideas. Well, I got 50 stories sitting on the computer at any given time. I don't think I'm going to run out anytime soon. It would really suck if I died tomorrow, though, because I got 50 of them waiting, you know. But any other questions? Come on, somebody's got to have something. I can only mumble so long. Some of my favorite authors are, my most favorite is Beatrice Small. She writes historical romance, not completely. In recent years, she's done some modern romance. She had this absolutely fascinating series called like Private Pleasures, and the premise of it is a cable channel only available to women. And you could live out your fantasies in these. You actually kind of end up inside the television, living out these fantasies. And you, each book, I think there was 5 of them that she had, were different characters and their experiences with the channel. But it wasn't available to men, and it was just fantastic. But she changed her publisher. Her historical romances I discovered in like 1978, maybe, no, more like 1982. A friend of mine asked me to buy a book for her. And she said, I'll let you read it, but I got to read it first, because she loved Beatrice Small, and that's how I got introduced to her. Well, I discovered Joanna Lindsay a few years after that, and she writes wonderful. She wrote her first novel on a dare. A friend of hers had seen, romance novels and said, you could write this. I dare you to write it. Let's see you do that. Well, her first novel, I think it was called Paradise Wild, went crazy off the shelves. Years later, though, she lost a lawsuit in court. She had plagiarized Beatrice Small, my other favorite author. Yeah, Paradise Wild. I have one called Sapphic Paradise coming out. It's about pearl diving. And the Sapphic titles are fantastic. In fact, that's the one that my publisher is trying to find a good set of pictures, like a Polynesian woman or a white woman from the Midwest, on there. My favorite lesbian movie? Oh, Elena and Don. I saw it for the first time this last summer. I probably watched it 24 times right in a row. Do I follow a regular routine? No, definitely not. I will write frantically for days on end, and then I'll feel my interest waning. That's why I have 50 different books unfinished at different levels on my computer, and then I'll suddenly feel like finishing one. I have books that are, well, look at Ships. Ships is so thick, okay? I have books probably twice this thick that are really good romance novels, but I'm not ready to release it yet. I'm not really ready to finish it. But erotica is 20 of my short stories, I can't get the hang of the camera. I got to remember it's reversed. But, you got to read what titles are in there. Otherwise, you end up buying all the shorts, which I don't mind. I'll let you. My writing process, it's probably not disciplined. I will stay up till 3 in the morning writing a book. And in fact, when I was working on the Malice series drove me nuts this last year. For those of you who don't know, it's about a killer. I didn't think I could write killers, stories. A good friend of mine writes like Stephen King, and I want to choke her because I don't like Stephen King novels. They don't do anything for me. I don't like being scared. But she and I had discussed many, many times about writing a lesbian romance killer. And I love the show Dexter. That one I do have to say I enjoy the show because you are cheering for an anti-hero. And statistically, most serial killers are men. Like 90 or 95% of the time, they are men. And I thought, why can't you have a serial killer that's a woman? Now, I saw the movie Monster, and that movie freaked me out major. Mostly because one of my favorite actresses is in it, and they made her look ugly. Ugly, ugly. She was fugly. I don't use the F word, but she was fugly in that movie. But she did it so realistically, and I think that's what freaked me out. I mean, Charlize Theron, oh my gosh. If my girlfriend would let me have a to-do list of famous people, she would be on that list just because she's so beautiful. And I've watched interviews that she's done, and she's just a fantastic person all the way around. And then I saw that movie about a lesbian who was a serial killer in Florida, and it was a true story. And I remember reading about that story, but when they did the movie, oh, that movie freaked me out. So anyways, I'm watching Dexter, and I'm thinking, let's make her a hero. Somebody who kills people that you want killed. I mean, in the Old West, like if you read Louis L'Amour, he's killing people left and right. There are people that are born to die. And in Alice's case, in the Malice series, she makes sure they do. I mean, it's justifiable homicide every time. She had a crisis of conscience where she killed somebody accidentally and worried about it and then found out they did deserve it. Yeah, Alice is a very interesting component. My girlfriend worried that it was a part of me, but it's really not. It is, but it isn't. I mean, some people think my books are about me. They aren't. There's parts of my life in there, such as Germanic with the cancer. But no, Alice is not me. But it's really great that I can kill people fictionally. I have said in public, I got to go home and kill somebody fictionally. There are outlines already for the last two novels, and I think they may be the last two novels of Alice, although Alice could go on forever. The fact that I got her married surprised a lot of people, because now she has to hide it from her spouse. And those of you who read the last book and knew what happened to her spouse, and then saw the covers for the coming books, can get a good idea of what could be coming. Alice is a very interesting character all the way around because she always has surprises. She surprises me. I just wish she'd get out of my head more often because this spring I couldn't get rid of her. You think it grounded her? That's a good point because now she has to have a different routine because like in the second book I showed she's obsessive compulsive. I think a lot of writers have that. I know I do. I'm not only have a bit of OCD, but I'm also paranoid, or I tell my girlfriend all the time, I'm a hermit. But really I'm not. I'm a very social person. I mean, I plan on going to the Pride festivals and meeting my fans and signing books, etc. And I love that sort of outing. But do I want people showing up at my doorstep? No. So you're social online. Okay. I had somebody ask me the other day on my alter ego on Facebook, since I got banned, and they're like, are you gay? And I'm just like, did you look at my timeline? And so my comeback should have been, yeah, isn't everybody? You know? But it didn't come across that way. I said, of course. And then I asked, you had to ask, because if you look at most people's timeline, they're proud of being gay now. It doesn't have to be in the closet. You don't have to be scared of it. I never had an official coming out. In fact, I always assumed everybody knew in my family. So they've not seen my picture. Oh, do I look gay? My picture is of Nymphomaniacs Anonymous on a rainbow background that I made for a group I actually started a year ago that got banned by too many pictures. I like beautiful women. I appreciate beautiful women. I've got a beautiful woman in my life. I can look, I just don't touch. Oh, my alter ego's picture? Yeah, it says Nymphomaniacs Anonymous, and the avatar is two women together. That avatar is fairly recent though, and I put it up there because of the video I did for couples. If you haven't seen that video, it's pretty good. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, it is hot. It's one of those moments where you kind of go, and if you're not in a relationship, it kind of makes you very nostalgic for that. The video is, I read an article just the other day, a company suggesting that you make videos for all your books. And I thought, gee, I've been doing something right all along. And that's the story of my life. I've had that all along where I did something and it made sense to me, and then I find out, oh, now they're telling everybody to do that. So it's funny. So anybody that I give advice to, I tell them, you know, there are certain things that trigger your story. Whatever the story is, whether you write poetry, whether you write romance, whether you write gore, there are things that are triggers, pictures in your mind. Go find those pictures. We'll make a video. Because it does work. Because then people get a feel for what your story is about. I've been working on Malice, and I asked for music submissions because I wanted something kind of ominous but romantic. So how do you do ominously romantic? And some of the suggestions actually were helpful because it made me think some more, and then I started thinking of the pictures that I wanted to get Alice in there. We'll probably end up doing new covers for the Malice because some people don't get it. Alice is very mercenary where money is concerned, and that's why the covers were all green. But the covers don't pop, and since people do judge a book by its cover, you know, they don't necessarily see Malice as something they want to read. They don't necessarily pick it up and go, oh, what's this about? Whereas like Sapphic Surfer, it's like a hot woman on there, or the new cover for Germanic, because there's a hot woman on there, they're going to want to read it. Do you have any advice for other writers? Yes, go to SHADOEPublishing.com and you'll get plenty of advice. You can get your first novel out there if you want, or second novel, or third. They'll help you. They'll hold your hand because it's made up of other writers who have tried and learned from their mistakes. How did I tell my parents after being straight for so long? I never did. I never came out. My mother died before I could tell her, but I do remember having a conversation. Remember when Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show? And I think that was the beauty of that show. It made a lot of people have conversations, which was the point. And we did. We had another conversation, and I said to my mom at the time, I was very heterosexual at that time. The idea of being with a woman never occurred to me. I was just really bummed that I never met a guy. But I was working. I owned a couple of companies. And I worked all the time because I had 2 kids, a mother, 2 dogs, and 4 cats to support. So I was a little busy. I also had 2 households. I had 2 homes. So I was working all the time. So how do you meet anybody, male or female, at that time? So we had this conversation, and she was saying that she said she felt sorry for Ellen because her show was going to go under because she came out, because she was the first. She didn't find that objectionable. She just said it's such a hard thing. And I said to her, I go, what if I'm gay? And she thought about it for a while, and I think she knew. I think she suspected, because I was a tomboy growing up. I'm very effeminate now, but then I wasn't as a kid. And I think she knew deep down. And she said to me, she goes, I would feel bad because it is just so hard. And I don't think the atmosphere in, you know, the late 90s when Ellen did that was ready. But she broke the ground for the rest of us. So what would your advice be as I've to tell my dad as yet, my kids and sister no? Well, I haven't told my dad, but he's dying, so it probably wouldn't be a good time. I don't want to be the cause of the last heart attack. I take the attitude, what business is it of theirs? If they haven't figured it out, they don't know you very well. One of my brothers, years ago, with my first girlfriend, said something that led me to believe he knew. And I've often wondered, and maybe someday I'll have a conversation with him. But my other brothers, I don't know if they know. I don't know if my sister knows, but it's none of their business, to be honest. If they don't take that much of an interest in your life, why should they know? Who you sleep with is no one's business but your own. I may not know it all. I know I don't. But I figure if they haven't figured it out, that's their problem, not mine. My kids, I think they know. They had to have known. My girlfriend slept over. But it's been a don't ask, don't tell. I'm not an in-your-face kind of lesbian. I would be if I were out at Pride or at an event that I felt comfortable with. But in the Midwestern town that I live in, I wouldn't hide it, but at the same time I wouldn't flaunt it. Just because it's other people's comfort level that I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking, oh, I could hide it. I don't. I mean, my neighbors know. In fact, one of them said, I would have figured it out because you don't have men in and out. Well, if I had men in and out of my house, wouldn't that make me a whore? You know. How young are your kids, too? That makes a difference. My kids are adults now. Some of the kids would assume that's just the way it is. Mom's gay. Yeah. At that age, it's so much easier and accepting. 10, 11? Yeah. If I had known when I had cancer 11 years ago that I was gay, that would have been as easy as telling my kids I had cancer. I remember feeling kind of guilty, and then at the time too, I had got a secret. But it's really not a secret. I look at different things in my life. I was probably gay all along. I just didn't have the opportunity or the desire to pursue it. I mean, certain things, now I look back and I think, wow, I guess I was. You know, I just didn't know it. Yeah. And see, and that's why I think my books relate to a lot of people, because that's the attitude I take. I assume everybody knows. If they don't, and it's a surprise, it's their surprise, not mine. I'm not hiding it, but I'm not flaunting it either. I did come out to a cousin earlier this spring. She was spouting really anti-gay and lesbian things about another cousin, and I finally looked at her, I frowned, and I go, you do know I'm a lesbian, right? And she's like, no, I didn't. And then she tried to convert me to Christianity. I go, I am a Christian. Just because I'm gay doesn't mean I don't believe in God. In fact, I probably know as much about it as you, because I went to private schools. But how dare she assume because I'm gay that I'm lost? I may not believe in the Bible that she believes in, but God could have taken me 11 years ago. I'm here for a reason. Maybe it's to write lesbian novels. Who knows? It irritates me too, because it's because they don't know. It's ignorance, and that's really what it is. It's total ignorance. I came out to an artist friend of mine, and she's like, I knew it. I knew you were. And I'm like, you couldn't have told me 15 years ago and saved me some grief? And she's like, well, it wasn't up to me. But she is gay, And she hides it very well. She calls her partner her sister, which I think is really one of those things where I shake my head, because to me it's obvious she's gay. She's an artist. She lives with her partner for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years that I've known her. Why would you hide that? Her kid knows. Her grandkids know. Why would you perpetuate that, lie? And that's what it boils down to. I'm not perpetuating a lie. Your sister said that too? Yeah, I haven't talked to my sister in a few years. I wonder how she'll react. She'll probably be like, oh, that explains it. As though, if you ever saw the movie, what is the name of that one? Oh, I don't remember the name of the movie at the moment, but they explained everything away because the guy was supposedly from Alaska, and as soon as they said he's from Alaska and all his weird behavior, suddenly everybody goes, oh, as though that made sense. Well, if I tell somebody I'm a lesbian, oh, that explains why I'm so weird, I don't look lesbian. I certainly don't act it. And what does a lesbian act like? Am I supposed to march in all these parades, be violent, grow hairy legs? Let's see, another myth. Oh, wear Birkenstock sandals, apparently. You told her on Facebook chat? You told her on Facebook chat? Well, you're right, you are a chicken, but good for you. You at least told her. Then you don't have to look at her face either if, you don't want to worry about her reaction. It's hard. And my mom was right. She always was. It's really annoying because the older I get, the more like my mom I get. But she was right. It is hard to be a lesbian. Is that it? You know what? You could tell her you were a Republican, and that would be a problem. It's really funny when I see when I see on Facebook or something these diehard Republicans, and then I find out they're gay, and I'm like, isn't that like an oxymoron? Does anybody want to do a video question? My producer is asking. I don't know how that works, so I know I have to click on something if somebody wants to do that, but you can if you want, if you don't want to type. You don't have to participate, but it's kind of nice talking. We only got about 7 more minutes before we're going to cut this off, and I've probably run out of things to talk about. Well, I thought I would an hour ago almost. So. But seriously, a Republican who is also gay, do they see what the Republicans do to the gay agenda? I have a sister-in-law in California who is a born-again Christian. She does not know I'm gay. If she saw this, she would probably shit bricks, as the phrase goes, which I would like to videotape if it happened, by the way. But she was talking about the gay agenda with Proposition 8. And I was planning on coming to England next month, but that petered out. So anyways, my sister-in-law was going on and on about the gay agenda and Proposition 8 and how it would destroy families. And I'm like, just allowing people to marry is not going to destroy families. And she went on and on and on, and we debated back and forth. And finally she said, well, we're both talking about something neither one of us knows anything about. And I almost came out to her, but then I knew it would cause earthquakes and tsunamis and whatnot throughout the family. So I thought I'd surprise her. I'll invite her to dinner next time I'm in California, and maybe I'll have my girlfriend with me. That'll kill her. And this is my girlfriend, and I'll mean it literally. Maybe we'll get married. That sounds good. That'll drive her nuts because I'll introduce her as my wife. That will kill my in-laws. Love is love, doesn't matter what sex. That's true. But it took me a while to get to this point too, because I used to be hetero and I had some very stupid preconceived notions until I experienced it myself. And it was simple ignorance, and that's exactly what their problem is it's it's ignorance. Hey, if I'm going to do an earthquake, the earth is going to move for a whole different reason. Yeah, anyway, so I was planning on coming to England next month, but we couldn't get the book signings set up with, what is that called, Waterstones? There is not a lot of gay stores, actually, bookstores. We only found one in London that still exists, so we were looking up in Manchester, and then there was some Oceanside, I know the name of it, I can't think of it at the moment, but we were trying to set up a whole bunch of those. So what I think, yeah, come to Manchester. Actually, I think maybe I'll come for Pride. Then I'll have a booth, and I'll promote that, of course, all on social marketing, like Facebook and my website and my blog. Seriously, if you haven't started following my blog, do so, because that's where all the news will end up before I put it on the website. Oh, it's Brighton. See, I knew it. I just couldn't think of it. Thanks. I've heard of Brighton for years because the romance novels mention it, and now it makes me wonder, maybe it's been gay for like 100 years or 200 years and we didn't know. A retreat for gay lovers. Now there's a thought. I could write a book about gay towns. It's in the water, you know. I saw that movie. I didn't think as much about it. I loved Elena and Don. Loving Annabelle was probably one of the first gay movies I ever watched. But I Can't Think Straight. Oh, that's a good movie. Manchester is better than Brighton? Well, I'm sure people living in Brighton might object to that or disagree. I've got a lot of fans in England, so hopefully when I do come, people will actually come, you know, because it would really be depressing if I were in a booth to sign books and nobody came. Yeah, I've heard of Canal Street in Manchester. And I'm in Midwest United States, so you can imagine how famous that must be that I've heard of it. But I really do read a lot and research a lot, so I've probably got a better education than some people. Anyways, well, I guess we're closing this down in like 3 minutes. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free. Or not. That works too. So anyways, what's coming out? The claim should be out. Let's see, I gotta figure out because the camera's backwards. The claim will be out probably later this week, in paperback first, and then ebooks, they'll delay them by a couple days to get the thing going. Germanic will probably be released next week with the new cover. That's right here, but it's an awesome cover, by the way. It's beautiful. It's kind of that you look at the picture and go, I've got to read this. And then if you know that I write lesbian romance, you'll probably just buy it. I'm still working on about 50 novels at any given time, so I don't know. But this really is the one that came out. This is why we did the video. Children of Another. Oops, I gotta get the camera right. Oh, the brightness is too much. But I wanted 4 kids, and I ended up with 2. But I was also married at the time to a man. Well, okay, I'll use the word loosely, a man. And so I used, you know, that experience to write my own novel, or that novel. It's not me, but it's what I could have or would have done at that time in my life. But I used twists and turns that I enjoyed putting into the book. It's in the mail. Oh, you ordered that. That was you who ordered that. Actually, there's been several copies sold. Again, ships will be coming out hopefully in the new cover. That's how you'll tell that it'll be published by SHADOE Publishing, who is putting on this event. But I have to be released from my old publisher, who I would not recommend. But lesson learned. Anyways, it's 8 o'clock. It was nice chatting with you all, and the video will be available probably within an hour, so if you wanted to watch it again, or recommend it to your friends, or post it on your timeline, or what have you. And I'm also available through my website, www.canmeinel.com, or you can email me at canmeinel at aim.com, at Gmail. Then I have my blog. You can email me through that. So I'm very available to my fans, and I do enjoy hearing from them. I usually do respond pretty well, unless I'm bogged down with work, but feel free. And thank you for watching.